All right, so this is the video for pattern practice. On the gradebook, it's called Illustrator Pattern Practice. And so if you're gone, just watch this video or use it to catch up. So in another video, I talked about setting up the document. I'm just gonna redo that and put it all together so that way just it's all in one place. So you're gonna need to have Illustrator pulled up, and you're gonna need to have week 10 on eClass pulled up. And so on week 10 of eClass, you're going to choose one of these images on the agenda, and you're going to save it. So my example, I'm going to use this one. I'm going to right click on it, and I'm going to, let's do save image as, put it in documents, IGDS2, and then pattern practice folder. If you don't have a pattern practice folder, then right here in the white space, you're just going to right click, go new, and go folder, and then make a pattern practice folder. So rename it pattern practice. And then once you've made it, go ahead and double click on it. And now you're inside pattern practice. So I'm going to save the image here. I'm just going to title it floral pattern. I know what I'm looking at. And go ahead and save it. So we got that. Now we're going to go over to Illustrator, and we're going to make new file. So click new file. And the very first thing, and this is something you should learn if you're going to stay in graphic design, is that when you're creating a document, a lot of the times I give you instructions, but when you're creating a document and you become more independent as a designer, the first thing you're going to do here is make sure you're working in the right units. Sometimes we're making something for web, which we'll typically want to use pixels for. So like an Instagram post will give you pixels, dimensions and pixels, so you might want to use pixels. But for this, we're using inches, so make sure you're in inches. And then for width, you're going to select 2 or type 2, and then for height, you're going to type 2. So let's go ahead and create. All the other stuff doesn't really matter, just as long as you have a 2 by 2 inch artboard. Go ahead and create that. And now you should have a square artboard in Illustrator. All right. Let's go to layers, wherever my layers are right here. This is my layers panel, which I'm blocking. So I'm going to move myself to the other side. So layers is right here. If you are always in search of something, a certain panel, layers, artboards, properties, always go to window, and it lists out all of the options here, right? So I can click on align, and it'll give me the align functions. So we're looking for layers, and there it is, pops it open. I believe we want 3 layers, and in layer 2, we're going to make that image. Layer 3, we're going to make graphics. And layer 1 is background. I know I did that out of order, but my brain is kind of scrambled, so just bear with me. Background, layer 1, layer 2, image, layer 3, graphics. So we're going to click on image, and then, so whenever you're creating something or moving something into the file, you want to click the layer that it's going to go in first. Make that a habit. So that way you're not having to reorganize it afterwards. You're doing it as you go. All right, so click image, and then open up your file explorer, which is this manila folder, and we're going to locate our image. So it should be in documents, IGDS2, pattern practice, and there's my pattern. So I'm going to click and drag it over to my Illustrator. And as you can see, it's bigger than my artboard, which is good because we're okay with sizing down, but never sizing up. All right, and then holding down Shift, resize it so that it's about the size of your artboard. I'm going to use my align functions to align it. And once it's set, then you can go ahead and lock that image layer. And then in graphics, so click your graphics layer because we're about to trace. So I want to click my graphics layer. In your graphics layer, you're going to use pen tool mostly to create your pattern here. So what we're doing is recreating this pattern. And when we talked about our lecture, or in our lecture in the other video or during class, the key thing about patterns is that they repeat. They go hand in hand with repetition. Patterns, you know, like you could put them on a wall, for example, like wallpaper, and it's going to keep repeating and it's going to be the same thing. So what that means for you working in Illustrator here is that if something repeats, when you want it to repeat on Illustrator, you copy and paste it. So work smarter, not harder. You're going to trace one whole sunflower. Once you have one whole sunflower, well, guess what? Now you have all the other ones. I can copy it and paste it over here. Even though, you know, this one's cut off here, don't worry about it, right? Like we can crop things easily. It's easier. But you'll paste it here. You'll paste it here. These two look a little smaller. No worries. You know how to downsize it. This one's also a little smaller too. You could paste it here. So just create one whole one, and then you can copy and paste it, and then worry about the cropping. We'll do that at the end. So don't worry about that. So if I'm going in and I'm tracing, I close my shape. That looks a little odd because of my pen tool skills. There we go. So this is what you're going to do, is just to make the shapes, add the colors in at the end. If you want to keep it as lines, just like lines, black lines, that's fine with me too, because that's still a vibe, you know, that's a look. Yeah, once you have your whole sunflower, you can copy and paste it. And I'm not going to sit here and do this whole thing. So if you ever want to finish a pathway, just hit end or enter. For these little guys over here, the little dots, I would recommend doing like a ellipse tool and just like zooming in really close up. And then using your ellipse tool, you're going to make just tiny circles or ovals, right? Different shapes, different sizes that kind of go over the little pixels because it's very pixelated. So this is what a pixelated image looks like because we're very zoomed in. And just keep doing that. And then you'll get that little unit. Let me pull up my other file really quickly. 1 second. Let me pause this. Can I pause it? Yes. All right, I guess won't let me pause it. Fast forward through this. I'm going to pull up my other file that is done. Is it this one? Here we go. All right, so this was my completed unit, but it does not stop here. So this is why I wanted to make this video is once you're done with the tracing, you're going to hide here. I'll go over here. Add a background rectangle if you haven't. So in the background layer, make your background using a rectangle tool and filling it in with color. This is important because if you don't have a background and you continue on, I'll just show you. Let me delete my background and I'll just show you. But it's important to have a background color or rectangle because right now technically the background's white, but that's going to disappear in just a moment. All right, so after you add your background rectangle, then you're going to hide the image layer so that way you get it out of the way and you're left with just your work. So hide layer 1, then you're going to create a 2 by 2 inch rectangle in the top layer. So whatever your layers are here, whatever is the topmost layer. So for me, that's layer 3. You're going to click it, layer 3, and then you're going to go to rectangle tool. Instead of clicking and dragging, the artboard, as you remember when we first set it up, was 2 by 2 inches. So you're just going to click once on rectangle tool, and this little pop-up appears. And this is a way to make a rectangle using exact measurements instead of clicking and dragging. So I can make a 2 by 2 rectangle, and I know that's going to be the exact same size as my artboard. All right, and then I'm going to use the align features to align it horizontally centered and align it vertically centered. All right, so I have my rectangle on top, and my next step is, after aligning the rectangle, is to select everything and Control 7. So go to your selection tool, select everything. So I'm going to click and drag to make my selection, and then Control 7. And so what that does is, that's called a layer mask. And basically what that does is it sucks everything up into this rectangle here. So it masks it. So let's redo that. And if I double click on it, I can go inside and edit individual pieces and such, kind of like a group. Anyways, we have this, and I'm going to show you why it's important to add a background rectangle, because the last step is to copy it. So select your layer mask, copy it, and paste it. And it looks like I do have a background. It's just like, there we go. So this is what it's going to look like, right? It just is transparent. So that's why it's important to have a background. So we'll leave this translucent.